For a show that's been around a while, Doctor Who has certainly explored many things over the years, and with many episodes comes many ups and downs with stories, but sometimes them stories are overlooked, maybe because other stories around them stick out more, which makes us forget some hidden gems. So, most underrated episodes from Doctor Who? It's an interesting one. Okay, before we get into it, I'm sure the channel name gives it away, but this will only be a New Who list, so we have 5 to rank. And what I deem underrated is kind of from general chat from other fans, what I don't hear being spoken about. And these can be episodes which were underrated and have sort of, in the last few years, started being more talked about. But I'll explain that for each entry. We have 5 to rank, all from New Who. Let's start off at number 5. Fugitive of the Judoon. Yes, Jodie Whittaker's second series, and in my opinion, her best series, Series 12, as the Doctor. Now, the Judoon were kind of zoned in as probably the main focus. They were kind of being advertised as the ones that were coming back. We kind of thought they were going to be the main thing of the whole story. But they were kind of a decoy for what the big twist of this episode was. And this is kind of a trip down nostalgia lane with the Judoon coming back, having seen them throughout David Tennant's years, and of course Captain Jack Harkness. But the biggest twist of all was obviously Jo Martin, the fugitive Doctor, coming in, which completely and utterly messed up the 13th Doctor for the next series. So this was a big episode. I feel like more looking at it now, knowing on what it means for the future of the show, but at the time it kind of wasn't spoken about. It is now starting to get more recognition, as it deserves to. Let's move up then to number 4, The Crimson Horror. Series 7 as a whole, Matt Smith's final series, is very underrated. Whilst it's not his best in my opinion, it gets way too much hate because of the split series, Season 7A, Season 7B. I don't really mind that. This is obviously in 7B, and I think it's more the feel that this episode goes down, which I think Clara is great in this, but then Clara isn't sort of the main, she isn't the main person in this really. This is about Jenny, Madame Vastra and Strax. It's really zoned in on these 3 throughout this episode, and I like them as a 3. I think they're really, really good fun, and they're all really interesting in depth and different characters. And I quite like it when the Doctor is sort of in trouble when he's not really at the start of the episode, because that means that there's a different meaning of how you try and solve the issue. Maybe the Doctor could have been out of the episode for a bit longer, because I think it's about 15-20 minutes until he was saved by Jenny. But still, it was a nice episode. The feel was amazing. It was quite creepy as well. I think the head lady, I can't remember her name, I'll put the picture up. She was amazing in this. The ending was interesting, to say the least. Wasn't expecting it, but that's Doctor Who for you. Let's move up then to number 3. This will be quite controversial. Love and Monsters. This is a real good example of an episode which was pretty much hated, and I have started to see it sort of have a renaissance in the last few years. Now, Series 2 is very much an up and down series, and this episode would be put in the downside of things, especially with the Impossible Planet and the Satan's Pit sort of circling around this episode as well. This one's kind of forgotten, and I think the main reason why this is not as well liked as others is its very different form of storytelling. Yet again, the Doctor hardly being in this episode, yet his presence is very, very much felt. Mark Warren as an actor was never the issue. I think it was just purely a little bit boring that we were following his life, and it was kind of like a POV. Is this really Doctor Who? It all felt a little bit different. And I appreciate it now. I appreciate the different side that it was going down. I wouldn't say it's an amazing episode, but it's certainly very underrated for its time, what it tried to do, and I think it's starting to get some more recognition. Let's move up then to number 2, Gridlock. Yes, as you may not know, Series 3 is my favourite series. So to put a Series 3 episode in underrated is interesting. Gridlock for me is kind of, it's always been there, but it's kind of not got the recognition that it deserves. And I think it's a really fun episode. Not only do I think it does great character development for the Doctor and Martha, and I really do like them in this episode, I think it's very clever in what it does with bringing a classic Who villain back, having the cats back, having this whole, basically a traffic jam which everyone has nightmares over, being stuck in traffic, and everyone deals with it on a daily basis. To have that in a Doctor Who episode, and kind of the realisation and the twist that they're just going round and round in circles, this never-ending highway, is a real fun sort of, on paper probably doesn't look as fun as you think it was, but when you watch it, the characters really bring it to life. The whole vibe is there, and I'm really liking it. But for me, the most underrated episode of Doctor Who is The Power of Three. Yes, season 7A. This episode is quite fun. And I think this is an episode which is classic Doctor Who. You've got weird things coming, which is the cubes. We're not sure if they're going to take over the world. You've got the ending as kind of Star Wars, Star Trek type of villain that tells us why he wants to destroy the Earth. It's very classic Doctor Who. There's some great additions of obviously Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, having her introduction here. She is amazing in this. And some nice moments between her and the Doctor as they reminisce over her father. And then you've got the Amy and Rory situation. Of course, this is really close to them dying and leaving the show, or being zapped back in time. It's exceptionally close, and Rory's dad really does sort of, he's quite open with the Doctor, Rory's dad. He asks him very deep questions. He says what has happened to past companions. A lot of obviously foreshadowing of what is going to happen to them. So he's got some really deep moments, and there's obviously a hint of sadness when you go back and watch it, knowing how close they are to their end. But the cubes were amazing. I think, yeah, maybe the way it ended was a bit rushed and kind of a little bit, not pathetic, but a little bit like, oh, was that it? But along the way, it's a great ride, quite some humorous bits in it, especially when we were kind of like trying to find out what the cubes were there to do, making people cry, playing really annoying party music, all that type of thing. It's a jolly old good ride, and Rory was in his pants. So there we go, those are my top 5 underrated. Of course there are others. Shout out to Deep Breath, shout out to probably, I know there is no Capaldi episodes here, but I do love Capaldi, so I think his whole era is actually very underrated, not just certain episodes. But if I had to say, when I say Deep Breath, which is his very first episode as the Doctor, we are very, very close to Series 2, and every single episode, every single theory, every single bit of everything for Series 2 is going to be coming here on this channel. So if you'd like to subscribe, that would help me out massively, and give this video a like. Next video is things I want from Series 2. I may do overrated, but that might not be until after Series 2 finishes, because when we start with Series 2, we're going to be in the sort of that realm, and we won't really go into other episodes. But for now, I'll see you all very, very soon.